Hi there! In this video, I'm gonna walk you through how to build a React Node application using AWS AppSync. AWS AppSync is a service that is gonna help us build a robust and scalable GraphQL application. Okay, so before starting, I'm gonna assume that you have an Amazon account. If not, you can head over to their websites and create one. Since I already have one, I won't be creating another account for this tutorial. So here I'm on my terminal. I can change directory into my projects folder, and in there I'm gonna create a bare minimum React application. And you can do it with npx create React app and the name of the app. This one will be Notes app. You can name it whatever you want. This may take a few seconds to complete. I'll be back. I'm gonna be using VS Code in this tutorial, but you can pick any other editor to follow along. Okay, so let's open our terminal in here and just make sure it starts with no errors. This is now our working React application with no errors, and we can go on from there. Let me stop the server, and the very first thing we're gonna do is we will install Amplify Cli. AWS Amplify Cli, which stands for the command line interface, is the tool that is gonna help us manage AWS services, okay? So each time you wanna do something with Amazon services on the cloud, you will be needing Amplify Cli. So let's install it with npm install -g for global install, AWS Amplify Cli. This may take a few minutes, so I'll be back when it's done. After installing Amplify Cli tool, the next command is amplify configure. So we can configure our application. Okay, at this point, you have to have an account. Since I already have one and sign in with this account, it's not going to ask me to sign in again. But on this page, it will ask you to sign in with your Amazon account, and you can easily close this and press enter. Okay, so we will be picking a region, and I'm going with the default. You can create a username, Amplify YouTube. You can name it whatever you want. And this is going to direct us to this page, and we can create a new role, new user here. I will go with the default ones and click next, next, and next. Now I'm creating a new user. And this is my user. This is the access key ID, and this is a secret access key. You will need this. I'm copying this one and pressing enter here. Okay, it's asking me for the access key. This is my access key and the secret access key. I won't be showing you this. So you can go ahead and enter your secret access key also. And this is my secret access key. Okay, it's asking me for the profile name. We can go with the default as always. Now it's set up the new user. Let's clear the terminal. So the next step is to add Amplify to our project. So to do that, we're gonna type Amplify init, and it will eventually create an Amplify folder in our source directory. Okay, not the source directory, but somewhere in the root of our application. So the app name is Notes app. It's okay for me. So this is kind of knows our environment, okay? It knows that we're using VS Code as the editor, and it knows the app type we're using JavaScript and the JavaScript framework we're using. It knows that we're using React to build this app. And we will go with the default configuration. So I say yes. I'm going with the default and the default. I just created this default profile. So now it's creating a project in the cloud. And I'm waiting for the Amplify directory to appear somewhere in here. And here we go. It created a new Amplify directory in our root of the project. And there are a couple of config files in here. Okay, we don't need to change anything in here. This is by default. Okay, so there are other helpful commands that you can use. We will be using Amplify at, and let's clear our console so that now we can create an API. AppSync provides us two types of APIs. First one is the RESTful API and the second one is Graphql API. In this tutorial, we will be using AppSync Graphql API to build our Node application. So let's add our backend API. To do that, I'm going to type amplify at an API. And it's going to ask me what type of API that I want to create, and I will go with the Graphql API. The API name, you can name it again whatever you want. I'll go with the API key and the description. Okay, it will expire like 7 days, and it's asking me advanced settings. No, I don't want this. Do I have a Graphql schema? No, I don't have one. And it's providing us schema templates so that we can easily create our schema. I will go with the first one because the second one has some relationships like GraphQL one-to-many relationships. We won't be needing this. So single object with fields, it's good for us. Now it's going to create a to-do schema for us. Do you want to edit the schema now? Yes, I do want, and using VS Code. Okay, now you can see it has a schema.graphql file newly created for us, and it has a model, GraphQL model, which is a to-do model. The to-do model has an ID field, and it's a required field. Since we have this exclamation mark, this means that it's required, and the name field and the description field. Description is not required, okay? We can leave it as blank. Now I want to edit this because I won't be having to-dos. I will be creating notes and listing notes. So I'm changing the to-do to notes here, and it's going to have an ID, have a title, which is a string required, and the description. And the description will be also required. Okay, I'm saving this. And to let AppSync know that I edited this, I somehow updated my schema, I will say amplify push. Do I want to continue? Yes. Okay, it's asking me if I want to generate code for my newly created GraphQL API, and I say yes. And I'll do it with using JavaScript. I won't be creating TypeScript files. Okay, it will create a bunch of files like GraphQL mutations to add and delete nodes and queries and subscriptions inside source GraphQL file. Okay, and I say yes. Do I want to generate, update all possible GraphQL operations like the queries, mutations, and subscriptions? Yes, I do. I go with the default one. And this is going to create mutations, subscriptions, and queries inside source GraphQL directory. This may take a few minutes, so I'll be back. Now it creates our GraphQL backend, and it provides us the Graphql endpoints. I will clear this terminal. And let me show you one thing. If you look at the source folder, there's a new folder called Graphql. And inside that, we have our Graphql mutations created for us. This is coming from the code generation. Okay, so we have our mutations to create, update, and delete our nodes. And we have our queries, Graphql queries, to get a single node and all of our nodes, to list nodes. We have our queries, and this is our schema.json file. And this is the subscriptions, okay? So that we know when someone creates a new node or updates a new node, these are the Graphql subscriptions. Okay, let me close this file. We will be using this Graphql queries, mutations, and subscriptions to create nodes, delete nodes, and listen on changes, events eventually. I'm closing this. And at this point, I will let my React application to know that there is a backend on the cloud, a Graphql backend that it needs to know her. So to do that, I will be copying, pasting some code here. I will be importing Amplify from AWS Amplify core package. We will be installing this one. And I'm going to import config file from the AWS exports file, which is right in here. And I will configure my application to know that we have a Graphql backend on the cloud. Okay, so let's install this package. npm install AWS Amplify. So before using mutations and queries in our app, let me show you the backend. Each time you want to see your Graphql server, you can type Amplify API console. This will open up our Graphql backend. And we can also select Graphql, we can also type queries, mutations on there too. Okay, this is our Graphql backend, and there are some queries, mutations, and everything created for us. We can easily use them, like we can select list nodes queries. Here is the query, mutation, and subscription. You can select each one. And for query, I picked list nodes. Okay, it's building up here. And I will pick items. See that? Items are here now. And I want each node to show the ID, the title, and the description. If I run this query, there is nothing because we don't have any nodes. So we have to create a node first. So let me create a mutation first. And my mutation will be the create node. Okay. I need the description and the title. ID is going to be automatically generated. And okay, for the title, first node. And the description is going to be very first node. I'm going to run my mutation to create a node, and it returns the ID of the newly created node. Now I can remove the mutation and list all of my nodes. See that? Now the items are not empty. It has our first node we just created. So now we can do this on our React application. Let's clear this and run npm start once again. It will open up our development server. And let me close this. Okay, so if we want to list our nodes, we need to run the list nodes query in our React application. So let's import this. Let's import list nodes from the Graphql queries. Let me show you the file, the Graphql folder, and inside that the queries. And this node is here. So we're going to be importing this, and we're going to use the default React state management. So I will import the use state and use effect from React. So let me create, let's make this differently. And let's create the, nodes array and set nodes using React use states. Okay, so use state will be initially an empty array, and we will be populating this array with our Graphql nodes. And we will be doing this inside the use effect, right? So inside use effects, the dependency array is going to be empty, so it's going to do this only once when the application first mounts. We will be calling a fetch nodes function here, and this is going to be an async function. We will be importing the API here, and we will use this constant data, like API data, is going to be the API dot GraphQL, and this is going to take an object which has a query field, and the query field will be list nodes. So this will query our GraphQL backend and return all of the nodes. And since this is an async operation, we have to wait for this. And after this, let me just console log this data, API data, so that we can see what comes back. Okay, this is not going to be the core, but AWS Amplify. Let me change this. And also, we don't have the logo. Let me remove the header part. Now this is going to work. This has to work. Okay, let me see. So this is the outcome. Okay, it has a data, and inside that it has list nodes, and inside that it has items, and the items is the array we're looking for. It has all of our nodes. So we will be going like API data, list nodes, and items to approach our nodes. So we can set state here. We can set our nodes here. Instead of console logging, I'll go set nodes and the item data. API data. The data dot list nodes dot items. Now we have our nodes. We can just show them. So in here, I can go like h1 tag my nodes, and I will go list all of my nodes. If nodes isn't an empty array, then I'm going to map over it, and for each node, I will return a div tag. So it has to have a key, right? A unique key. So all of my nodes has an ID field. So I will be using the ID field as a key. And we can close this. And we can make an h2 tag. And maybe not the title. We're going to show the not the title. And with p tag, we can show not the description, right? So let's see what this looks like. And this is my very first note, okay? Now I have the data and I can show it. Now I can list all of my notes here. I can easily create a new note. Okay, so let me copy paste some more code so that this tutorial doesn't take too much. Okay, let's create the state for this form. And I will be having an initial form state. And this is going to be an object. It will hold the title and the description for creating a new note. And in here, I will have constant form state, set form state, and this is going to be the use state, and this is initially will be equal to initial state, initial form state I just created here. So using this form state, we have a form here. We have two inputs, one for the title and one for the description. And the value part of this is form state.title and form state.description. Okay, it has their own placeholders. And for the onChange methods, it's just going to change the title and change the description. So we have a button here for creating a note, and its onClick method is binded to a function called createNote. We're going to create this. So let's go here under use effect. Let's say constant create note. Okay, this will be async also. And if the form state title is empty or the form state title is description is empty, then we're not going to be creating a new note. We will be just returning. Otherwise, if we have the title and the description, we will be creating a new note. So we have to import our mutation for this. Import create note as create note mutation. I'm creating an alias because we already have a create note function. So there will be name clashing if I just import this as create note. So we're gonna call this create note mutation, okay? From the Graphql mutations folder. Yeah. And inside create note function, we can now call our API Graphql, and inside that the query will be create note mutation, and the variables will be have an input, and the input is form state, which holds the information of newly created note. Okay, so this is going to create a note in our GraphQL backend, but this is not going to reflect on our application. To reflect, we have to set notes, and we will be adding our new note, which is the form state here, using React states. Also, we will clear the form inputs, set form states, and we will be setting to initial form states. Okay, let me show you. if now we visit this, we have our form to create a new node. Okay, the second node, and the description is very second node. Let me create this, and as you see, the second node appears here. And if I refresh the page, both of my nodes appear on my screen. So this is how it works. Let me show you one more thing. If you don't set nodes here, but just call the API Graphql to create a new node, let me show you what happens. Okay, I'm refreshing the page. Third node, very third node. So what I'm expecting here is this is going to create a new node on our backend, which is on the cloud, okay? This will happen. But what will not happen is, it's not going to reflect on our application instantly. Let me show you. You see, we have created our third node, but it doesn't appear right away. But if we refresh the page, it will come. This is happening because we didn't set up any subscriptions yet. So when someone creates updates or deletes a node, we don't know that. Our application doesn't know that. So we have to manage this using React use states. This line here is the thing that reflects changes. Okay, so that was it, guys. Now you know how to build a React application using AWS AppSync. So if you like this video, you can support us by giving this video a like and also subscribing to our channel. Otherwise, goodbye.